I'm Brady Berserker.
I'm Big Sexy Brian Bales.
And I'm Metal Matson from Super Geeky Playdate,
a podcast member of the Gonna Geek Network.
Just like the show you're listening to now.
The opinions expressed are those of each individual host.
Check out all the other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
And get ready because geekiness begins in
3, 2,
1.
This is it. The part of your week where you get to put your headphones on, relax, and listen to a bunch of geeks geek out about geeky things. They're passionate.
As a Canadian, I will say that more than likely, I'm just going to get screwed another way. That's the way it always works.
They're knowledgeable.
Maybe that's where life began, on MU-69. We don't know.
And sometimes they're a bit angry.
Skype, I'm breaking up with you. It's not me, it's totally you.
Gonna Geek Productions presents the official GonnaGeek.com show.
Hello and welcome to episode number 203 of the official GonnaGeek.com show. My name is Stephen Jondrew, and with me, of course, is Chris Ferrell.
I'm an optical illusion. I'm not really here.
We've also got the optics of the show, Stargate Pioneer.
Well, I noticed that you turned off the music when you went to me, so obviously it's optics. It's not audio because I have no cool music behind me as I'm talking.
No, that music's still going because what you don't know is that I actually extended it in the actual edited version. I've extended it, so I haven't updated my iPad. So for you live audio, live people at www.geeks.live, you know what he meant. But for you post listeners, you do not know. And you can just send him a message and say, Stargate Pioneer, I love the music under you. It changed a little bit.
It changed their lives is what it did. It's just happening music. I like this music, Steven. It's a good change. Change up the show, change up the bumps, and you get people jazzed to be here. And it's great. We got a full chat room. We got a full slate in the show notes, and it's just going to be a fun time. And it's awesome that the show is on Monday night because I was looking forward to it all day at work, which sucked today. Work sucked.
Work always sucks because we'd rather be podcasting because we are passionate podcasters.
I like to get paid.
Okay, that's true. But I'd rather be podcasting for money. Okay, that's what I meant.
I think everybody would rather be podcasting for money because they think it's easy, but podcasting for money would be hard.
You know what? Some people say that those who get paid for podcasting are basically just the whores of the podcast industry.
Those are strong words there from a Canadian.
What?
I'm kidding. I'm totally joking. I just was trying to have a good old time because I'm back in my studio this week. That's right. Last week I was away and I'm happy to be back. And we've actually got some very exciting news. We were talking about change and all that stuff. And we were invited to be a part of the GFQ network. So you can find us also located on GFQ network. Starting with this episode, you're going to see us over there. Don't worry. This is still the official GonnaGeek.com show, part of the Gonna Geek network. But let's be honest. You know, I was talking about whores. I will whore myself out wherever I can to get more eyes on this.
So what you're talking about is a live simulcast to 2 mega networks on the internet.
Yeah, that's actually a great way to phrase it. So hopefully we'll get a few new eyes coming to the show and who will also come by the chat at www.geeks.live and or wherever you find us now and chat with us while we're recording this live because that's part of the fun that we've got. And we've got a full chat room there right now, but there's always room for you if you are listening to us afterwards. As I mentioned, you can find us on Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Pacific Eastern time. That's 5:45 p.m. Pacific time, and come by and heckle me because that's what you should always do.
That's what I do.
Yeah, I knew that. That's why I switched the screen to you.
That's exactly why you did it.
All right. So thanks very much to GFQ Network, and you can definitely find us over there, which I love the idea that Suncast has been on this show like the last 4 weeks. And we chose an episode without him on here to talk about it. Like, oh, that was bad timing on my part. Sorry, Suncast.
And that's how the GonnaGeek.com network is run.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on into the news. Just for Chris. This week in the news, we're going to go ahead and start off with some alleged leaks. That's right. If you do a little search on the search, because we wouldn't want to put illegal stuff on this program, you can find that apparently there are photos out of the Google Pixel 2. I've talked about it before. I own me the Google Pixel 1, love me the Google Pixel. One of my favorite phones that I've ever owned, to be perfectly honest. And even though, you know, the design was a little bit passé, I still have loved it. I thought it's been really even better than my Nexus 5, which was one of my favorite experiences I ever had. So Google Pixel has been great for me. And yes, if you go to www.geeks.link/Pixel2, that's www.geeks.link/Pixel2, that's the number 2, you can find this article that shows apparent photos of the Pixel 2. It looks very, very similar to the Pixel 1. They are keeping apparently the bezels on the top and the bottom, so they haven't got rid of those yet, but I'm not that surprised. The Pixel worked. I think they're probably, I always assumed it would be a couple of years before they did a major switch, because I think they really want to keep capturing and keeping that momentum with the Pixel market. The only thing I'm not sure about is those people who are looking for the sleek phone. They're going to lose them, because it does, like I said, the Pixel 1 will look pretty passé compared to some of the phones coming out. And so this is now really passé.
Are these pictures of the Pixel 2 or the Pixel 2 XL? Because I'm holding up my Note 3 to the picture that I'm seeing on screen. And I know it's the internet, anything can be scaled, but I'm looking specifically at the camera, and it's about the same size as the camera in the Note 3. So this is the Note 3 is a phablet, right? So you're talking a bigger screen size. So it might actually be the Pixel 2 XL that we're looking at, not just the Pixel.
Right. They're pretty much the same, though, other than the fact that there's a different battery in the Pixel 2 based on all the leaks that have come out. They're basically the same. It has the smaller glass plate on the back, fingerprint sensor on the back, and still the bezels that are fairly large. It's an iterative update. It's not a revolutionary update.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that they are saying is that apparently the headphone jack is departing.
And I'm out.
And that's the problem with that, Chris, is that there are going to be so few options for you if you're wanting a headphone jack now. It's like the Samsung apparently is getting rid of it too.
No, it's not.
Apparently the Note 8
has a headphone jack.
No,
in it.
the rumors for next year is not the Note, but the one after the
9.
I guess it's not the Note, but Galaxy
GS9.
S9. That's the rumors. They're going to get rid of it there too.
We'll believe it when we see it. We haven't seen anything yet that officially proves it doesn't have a headphone jack. Remember, a lot of these leaks are renders that people have made based off of what it supposedly looks like, or case leaks and things like that. Now, while I wouldn't be shocked if the headphone jack goes away, we don't know yet. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it doesn't, because that was going to be my next upgrade. But if they drop it, I might be going GS8 for my next headphones. Or next headphoned phone.
They're massively different experiences, right? And I think that's, I have to say that with what I'm seeing with different phones, I think that the headphone jack, give it 3 years and there will be only crap phones that have it. And so you're kind of going to be forced at that point. I really hope the Pixel holds on to it, because I don't use mine often, but when I do need it, it's nice to have it. But the reality is, I think we're going to have to get used to this stupid adapter thing. The only good news is that it is likely going to have a plethora of accessories that will allow you to charge and use the headphone at the same time, because that is something that Android has been fairly good with the Google phones, is using the OTG adapters that do that. Now, not all Android phones, but there have been several that have allowed that. So hopefully.
So I was one of the people that said, no way, if you don't have a headphone jack, I'm going to move away from you. And if everybody's in this next generation of phones with only a select few, like you said, Steven's crap phones are going away from it, I'm like, okay, I'll jump into it. So over the last year, I have had a chance to use multiple Bluetooth earphones and headsets. And while I can't use them at work, I can at least use them while I'm driving in my car, or if I'm mowing the lawn or something like that. Actually, they haven't turned out to be too bad. There's been a couple of instances where I've run out of charge. I'm like, God, gosh, dang it, I've run out of charge. But I was able to go to an alternate thing at that point in time. So the other thing that has me enticed is if they're water resistant, truly, because of the lack of the 3.5 millimeter jack, that is becoming more and more of a, that's actually probably a good idea. So I'll admit when I'm wrong.
The headphone jack is not the prereq to be water resistant. The Galaxy S7 and 8 are both water resistant, waterproof, and have headphone jacks on them.
Right, but it is a major consideration when you are making that phone water resistant, and it is a weak point in the case for water to get in, even if it's designed to prevent water from getting in on the inside. Those 3.5 millimeter jacks can corrode pretty easily. I've seen it corrode in other devices in the past, and it's not something that I will just push away and say it's never going to happen, because it could happen. So if it would make the phone more resilient, because I've had my iPhone 6 Plus for coming up on 3 years now, 3 years. So if I'm going to have a phone, the iPhone 10, the Galaxy Note 8, whatever it's going to be, for another 3 years, I'm going to want it to be as resilient as possible, because over 3 years, these things can take a lot of abuse.
Yeah, I gotta say, I still am of the opinion that it's stupid we removed it. I think that it's dumb. I think it was a terrible decision, but I also am of the opinion that once Apple made that decision, that's where we were headed, because unfortunately, that's the trend that I've seen. And I hope you're right, Chris. I hope that Samsung holds on to it going forward. But I've read a couple rumors that it was before the Note, before the recent information with the Note 8. I keep wanting to say the Note 7 because it was basically non-existent, but the Note 8, it was just before that next year Samsung's looking to get rid of it.
Well, Samsung's all about trying to be different than Apple right now, or do things Apple does and try and make it look prettier. So I could see them making the headphone jack still being there, being a point of advertising, a point of saying, hey, look, we're different than Apple. I hadn't seen the same rumors the GS9 line was going to be removing the headphone jack, but it's not the end of the world. Here's how you make it more palatable if you're going to take a headphone jack away. We've all been complaining about, well, with my iPhone 7, I got to have a dongle so I can listen to music with headphones and I can charge at the same time. As wireless charging becomes more prevalent with devices, and as we've seen with the leaks for the iPhone 8, it will have wireless charging. Losing your headphone or having to plug your headphones into that USB port or that Lightning port becomes less of an issue if you can charge wirelessly, which is something that the Pixel 2 seems to not be able to do as well. There's no wireless charging based off the leaks and no waterproofing. So while it is the best Android software experience, it might not be the best hardware experience going forward. You might be looking to Samsung again to say, hey, the best hardware experience on Android is probably a Samsung phone right now, or maybe the OnePlus 5, because it's pretty slick too.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't do more with this, to be perfectly honest, because that was the big thing that you could justify with the Pixel line being the same price as the other guys, is that you were pretty much neck and neck, and they had some things that were the best, i.e. the camera. But what I'm seeing so far, it's looking like it's not going to go that way, and that's going to be a big mistake unless Google's looking to kind of go a little under the high price tag. That would be the only save to this would be if they wanted to come in 150 or so less than like the S line, but I don't think that's the case. I think that this is going to be a problem, and if they do launch it as the rumors are showing, the Pixel 2 could not do well for the future of the Pixel line. But I love my Pixel 1.
You got to think though, what are the numbers in the Pixel 1 really? What they're doing here is the same thing they're doing with the Nexus line, the same things they were doing early on, which is here is a flagship way to showcase Android the best way it can be done, and maybe put a little pressure on the vendors out there to be like, look, up your game, start taking care of Android updates sooner. Here's what we're capable of doing. I don't think the Pixel 2, much like the Pixel 1, is going to sell millions upon millions of phones and be one of the most bought phones out there. I think you're going to have that crowd of Android enthusiasts who love to have pure Google, the best experience, like, yes, I have to have this. And they're willing to overlook some of the less cutting edge design choices because they get the cutting edge software side of the house. I think that's what it's going to come down to on that one.
Which is a shame, because that makes the Pixel line completely useless, because that was the intention of the Pixel line, and dumping the Nexus line was because the Nexus was there to give you that software experience. The Pixel came in to be a real player. That was why they jumped to the Pixel higher price tag and they redid it, was because they were looking at the whole package. So that model that you're talking about is better in line for the Nexus cheaper price tag. So it's a shame.
The thing is, Samsung screwed them by going to their new Infinity display on all the S8 phones, and all of the S8 Notes, supposedly. The new display they're doing with what is like the 18 by whatever standard screen size, it's ridiculous. It's changed things up, and it's kind of a game changer. And the rumor is Apple's going to be doing something very similar with an edge-to-edge screen. So that is the way things are trending. Now, not everyone wants an edge-to-edge screen, and that's where the Pixel comes into play. That's where some of the new HTC phones and LG phones come into play, because it's very expensive to do edge-to-edge. So these other guys are doing their mid-tier to the lower flagship level phones that do not have that edge-to-edge.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. In any case, I'm slightly less excited about the Pixel 2. Not that I was getting it, but I was really excited with some of the things that I was reading, because earlier in the year, there's the whole rumor they actually dumped the entire progress that they had been making since last year with the Pixel 2, and they had dumped it in favor of a full new fresh design and even a different manufacturer. And then obviously that's looking like that's not the case. So we'll see what happens. But time will tell. So let's go ahead and move on and let SP talk about some virgin girls.
So I noticed that you have been a little bit liberal in your titles for my news segments. This is not a virgin girl. I think you merged a lot of the title together. It's Cosmic Girl, not Virgin Girl, Cosmic Girl.
Oh, but what, there was like something about virgin in the title of your article.
Yeah, Virgin Orbit.
Right.
Yeah. Oh. Virgin Orbit, rocket launching plane, Cosmic Girl.
Right. So if I take them, we want to make sure we give the proper credit company. There's so much private space exploration happening. We want to make sure that we credit the right company so somebody doesn't think that this is like SpaceX. So you got Virgin, right? And then we want to make sure that we talk a little bit about the title of the actual plane. So we want to talk about the girl. So it's the Virgin Girl.
Cosmic Girl for Virgin Orbits, which is one of 3 Virgin space properties, by the way.
Okay, but are Virgin Cosmic or Virgin Girl? Because we can't, it's too many. 3 words is too many.
It's just the plane is called Cosmic Girl. It's actually part of the company called Virgin Orbit.
Okay. Whatever, the sidebar's there. People can read it, so just go ahead.
You're assuming people can read. So what happened, by the way, is there was an article.
Semi-literate.
That's right, because you're from West Virginia. So there was an article in space.com by senior writer Kala Caulfield on August 1st that was entitled Virgin Orbit's rocket launching plane, Cosmic Girl, comes home to Long Beach. Now, what is this all about? So Cosmic Girl is actually a Boeing 747-400 series aircraft that previously flew passengers for the Virgin Airlines and is one step closer to serving as a mobile rocket launching platform. Yes, they're going to launch rockets from a 747. This is so cool. Yesterday, which the article said was July 31st, the spaceflight company Virgin Orbit flew the 747 to Long Beach, home to the company's headquarters. Their work will begin to outfit the aircraft with the external equipment to carry one of Virgin Orbit's Launcher 1 rockets and launch it into space from an altitude of 35,000 feet. And for those in the metric system, that's 10,700 meters. Virgin Orbit has spent more than a year inspecting and modifying the 747, stripping nearly 70,000 pounds of unnecessary weight, and that's just a lot of GMC Sierra 4x4s, by the way, from the interior of the plane, and adding electrical systems that will ultimately support the addition of a rocket mount called a pylon, same as a missile on a fighter aircraft, to one of Cosmic Girl's wings. Now, the Federal Aviation Administration, also known as the FAA, by the way, issued Cosmic Girl an experimental airworthiness certificate, which is very important. I've been involved in experiments before, and you need that experimental airworthiness certificate to proceed, otherwise you're grounded. And this means that the plane is approved to start making test flights, company representatives said in a statement. Now, by using this aircraft instead of a traditional stationary launch pad, much like SpaceX does, Virgin Orbit will gain more flexibility in terms of launch schedule because it doesn't have to compete with other launches and it can fly around weather, quite frankly. So company representatives have said, in addition, launch pads typically need to undergo inspections between launches, whereas airline runways do not. Well, aircraft have to undergo inspections, just saying. The aircraft can also operate through or around weather conditions, as I said before, that traditionally delay launches. Now, Virgin Orbit is one of 3 spaceflight companies that are part of the Virgin Group portfolio. Stephen, this is for you. Along with Virgin Galactic and the Spaceship Company. Virgin Orbit's objective is to build an aircraft that can serve as a mobile launch pad for the company's Launcher 1 rockets, which can be used to send small satellites into orbit. Now, back on Gonna Geek, episode number 195, I talked about Paul Allen's Stratolaunch carrier that was unveiled back in May. These 2 planes are different. Paul Allen's Stratolaunch carrier is designed to launch the Pegasus rockets from orbital ATK. So together, these 2 planes, Cosmic Girl and the Stratolaunch carrier, join a B-52 and the Lockheed's L-10-111 as the 4 aircraft in the world that are capable of launching a rocket into space.
So let me get this right. So you talked about Paul Allen's Stratolaunch Virgin Girl?
No.
Is
Paul Allen owns a space launch company, and he made a big ass plane called the Stratolaunch carrier, which we talked about in May.
Okay, sorry, I'm misunderstood. I'm sorry.
Purposely.
You misunderstand a lot.
Okay, so obviously, yes, the title bar was just having some fun with SP, but I want to ask
SEO,
you,
man.
Yeah,
SEO.
it's SEO. That's what it is. No, I want to ask you, SP. So these sort of things, because they seem to be happening more and more routine now, but I don't feel like we're getting like a big movement forward here. It seems like a lot of similar projects. Is that true?
These do seem like they're similar. Now, one difference between the Stratolaunch carrier and the Cosmic Girl is the Stratolaunch carrier will be able to take up to three Pegasus XL launchers. Now, these launchers aren't as big as the Falcon Heavy launcher that SpaceX is creating, or a Titan 4 launcher. They're smaller, and they're smaller for a reason. First of all, they're not carrying a huge payload that can go outside of Earth's orbit to the moon or Mars or something like that. Generally, they're smaller payloads that go into LEO or mid-range orbits. So the boosters are small. They're smaller also because that first 35 or 50,000 feet that the rocket has to go, it uses the most amount of fuel. So if you can forego that, you're lessening the amount of fuel that is needed. Also, if you're able to fly the plane around the equator, you can gain maximum velocity momentum of the Earth to get to orbit, thus reducing the total amount of rocket fuel you need to burn to get to orbit. So they're smaller launchers, smaller payloads, a different sort of use case, but the planes are different. So the Cosmic Girl is set to launch Launcher 1 rockets, which haven't been made yet. Pegasus rockets have been made, it can probably carry one of those as well. The more of these that you can actually use and you can actually launch stuff into orbit, you're going to make getting stuff to space cheaper. Now, it'll be a low Earth orbit and it'll be smaller, but it'll be cheaper. So same, but different. It'd be like driving to work in your Chevy Cruze versus your Ford Focus. You get there. It's just a different vehicle.
Okay.
I'm going in my Tesla Model S. Screw that.
Yeah. You got $120,000?
I wish.
Yeah.
Wait, you guys don't?
Wait, are you getting paid finally and we're not getting our cut?
No. Oh, we have to
1%.
wait. So you sign a loan agreement and you have to pay it back?
Just a little bit.
Oh no. Oh no.
Is Canada starting to go all grease now?
All right. Well, thanks for bringing that up there, SP. And good analogies there with the Ford Focus and the Chevy Cruze, because everybody knows the Chevy Cruze is the nicer ride. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Samsung's in-display fingerprint reader.
So guys, if we hadn't done it enough already, let's talk about cell phones some more. But I don't want to get into a whole Android versus Apple debate. I want to talk about something that's kind of cool, a trend that's developing but hasn't quite developed yet. If you guys haven't been paying attention, earlier this year, Samsung released the Galaxy S8 phone. There were many rumors going that they were going to try and integrate the fingerprint sensor under the front screen of the phone. They were unable to pull that off, and many people think that their failure to get that print sensor underneath the screen is why the fingerprint sensor is placed so poorly on the Galaxy S8, excuse me. And if by poorly, I mean if you've seen where that sensor is, it's literally right next to your camera lens. So every time you miss, you swipe your greasy finger across your camera lens and screw up the picture quality on that until you clean it up. So it's not great there, but Samsung was trying to pull it off. Well, 9 to 5 Google wrote an article where they referenced a study by KGI Securities that claims Samsung is going to keep the fingerprint sensor on the back of the phone for now. They're apparently going to keep the scanner on the back of the phone through the Galaxy S9, and when it's released next year, they'll introduce an under-display feature in the Galaxy Note 9. Granted, the Note 8 has not even come out yet, and we're already talking about features potentially coming to the Note 9. So here's the question. If this fingerprint sensor underneath the front screen is such a differentiator, it's such a big deal, why is Samsung holding back? You guys have any ideas on that?
Number one, they can't get the same security. I think that they're having troubles getting the same security that they can with a reader on the back as on the display. I'm going to guess there's some form of interference, like you get smudge marks or something like that. So then you got to compromise or compensate for that. So then it's not as detailed. That's my guess, number one. Number two, I think that it's the cost to do it versus the gain that they will get as far as public like isn't worth it. And that's the big thing there, because I personally, as I keep hearing these in-display fingerprint readers, I can't think of myself liking it more, because I don't pick out my phone with my finger on the screen. It's not a reaction. I'll pull it out with my finger on the screen. No, I pull it out with my finger very close to that and on the back, being right on the back center. And so I think that I don't know that the cost justifies, or the amount of people that will like that over the back justifies the cost involved. For me, I am sold on the back. I might change my mind once I see it on this display, but so, I like the back.
I like your theory for why they might be holding off on that new sensor. SP, you have any thoughts on why that might be the case?
I think it might be because they're going through some use testing and it's not turning out what they thought it was going to be with their original design. That's what I'm thinking.
I think all of those are key points why they're not doing it. Here's another reason why I think they're not rushing to try and put some hodgepodge solution out there that doesn't work, because Apple hasn't got it right yet either. If you look at all of the leaks that have come out on the iPhone 8, which is basically the iPhone X, the 10th anniversary edition of the iPhone, Apple really wanted to do something similar as well, which was put the sensor underneath the glass for a better user experience. All of the leaked reports coming out of Foxconn reports and all the blogs have picked up have said that Apple hasn't been able to pull off this fact either. So Samsung doesn't have to rush. If Apple can't get it in the iPhone 8, then Samsung doesn't have to worry about it in the GS9. They can put it in the Galaxy Note 9 because that will still be out before the next successor to the iPhone. And here's where it gets really interesting in regards to the iPhone. This technology is really cool. I think fingerprint sensors on phones, I didn't think I'd like it. Now it's become commonplace for me, makes it really simple to log in. Well, the rumor is for iPhone 8 that you might not even have a physical button or even a virtual button on the bottom of the screen with a Touch ID fingerprint sensor in it. The rumors coming out based off people tearing down the SDKs have been released for the, what's their little speaker equivalent of the Amazon device? I can't recall. People have dug into that SDK, and it appears that maybe, just maybe, the Touch ID sensor will no longer exist on the Apple iPhone 8. Instead, they will rely primarily on face recognition to be the unlocking feature on the iPhone 8. And good luck, guys. Face recognition for unlocking, very easy to spoof, as we've seen with some of the people doing that on the Galaxy S8 and even on the S7 when it went in there. So
Yeah.
tough to do. So even KGI Security seems to back up the fact that Samsung's not going to rush into it. According to them, quote, the Galaxy S9 will not have the new will have the new selling points of upgrade, iris recognition, and dual cameras. Therefore, Samsung has no need to risk adopting under-display optical fingerprint solutions in a hurry. So Samsung's going to bank on iris recognition. Apple's going to bank on face recognition. When here's the thing they really need to realize, if you give me a fingerprint sensor on the back of my phone like I have on my Nexus 6P, I'm even happier than having something sunk under the screen.
Yeah.
Because by the time I pull my phone out of my pocket, the screen is already unlocked and I'm looking at it versus trying to be like, oh, where is that on my screen? Is my fingerprint sensor here or here? I don't know where it is.
You know,
Granted,
anytime we talk about the fingerprint reader on the back, like I gotta give credit to JS. It's still like, I think about this, like I'm talking with somebody at work about it, and JS comes to my mind because I remember when he got that Nexus 6, I think it was. I don't think it was the 6P. I think it was the 6. And he was like, this is the best place to have it. And I'm like, really? And it just, until you have it, it just makes so much sense. You don't really realize how good it is. The only people that I think the back has a problem with is the people who do place it on a stand or place it, you know, somewhere, and they're using it that way, because those people are maybe having to use it on the front. I love the back.
There's also another group of people out there, Stephen, and I'm surprised you're not bringing these people up because they're your type of people. This is like Minnesotans, Canadians. When half the year they're out ice fishing, they got their phone in their pocket, they want to take a little break in between bites, and they take their phone out of their pocket, but they have this massive glove on their hand, and they're not able to get that fingerprint anywhere on the phone, so they can't unlock their phone until they take their hand out of their glove, get frostbite just to unlock their phone.
Well, guys, we're being a little over the top on that one, though. Let's remember both Android and Apple have set it up so your lock screen still works as it always has, even if you can't get your fingerprint to work. So as long as you have gloves that work with a touch screen, which many vendors are selling now.
Yeah.
Do they work in minus 50 degree Fahrenheit weather?
Well, I've had it work in like 7-degree Fahrenheit weather, but that's about as cold as it's been when I've had my phone outside. If it's that cold, you probably don't want your phone on you because it's going to freeze.
Plus, I'm with Chris. Like, I'm totally with Chris on this here, that you are in a situation that your functionality of your phone is limited when you are wearing gloves. Even if you don't have a pair of special touch gloves, you're not using your phone at all, let alone caring about unlocking it. Even if you have those touch gloves, it's not as fine. You know, they're big, massive, whatever you call it, tactile interfaces. So it's
phrasing.
It's big, it's massive. So it's not the same experience. So I am totally with Chris. I think we're a little bit ridiculous.
But it's entertaining.
Did you just call a third of the country ridiculous? I think you did. A third of the United States and all of Canada. You personally called everybody ridiculous.
Because
actually, I've called 48% of the country ridiculous, but we'll just leave it at that.
Every single person who you are trying to, like, you know, champion for is going to say, you know what, let's pretend that this could magically unlock, like this would unlock with my face. I still am very limited in what I can do with my gloves, because you're using the little keyboard and you're trying to use your big fingers and you're fat fingering the keyboard. Like, it's very limited what you want to do. And maybe it's using your camera, and you can, like Chris said, unlock it another way. It's not, you know, when you got gloves on, convenience like that is not the biggest issue that you've got. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. So send your hate mail to js@gonnageek.com.
That's right. JS loves the hate mail.
So let's go ahead and move on to our extra segment, which is going to be all about how Google is apparently trying to fight Snapchat for a interesting publishing style business experience. It's something that a lot of companies are trying to find right now. They're trying to basically come up with a platform where people can go and make a quick style engagement with potential customers. And so there's a Google project that has kind of leaked a bit of information out called Stamp. Now, one of the interesting things about this is that they're obviously trying to make something that's going to develop quick snap news and entertainment, things like that. But the interesting thing about the name Stamp is the fact that it incorporates AMP, which is the Google piece of the search where when you search for something and it comes up with that sort of like live up to the second information sort of news at the top, and you go in if you're on the mobile and it doesn't actually take you to the website, it loads really quick. And a lot of people are theorizing that it's, the name Stamp is actually intentional because they're going to be really leveraging the AMP feature. So that's kind of an interesting idea. And if you never really noticed this before, next time you do a search for something current, take a look at the top. If you're on your mobile, take a look at the top results, because you're going to notice they're very different than the rest of the results. And they are often up to the second. You know, with the regular Google indexing, there's a certain period before it gets on there. Sometimes it's days or weeks or longer. But with AMP, it's up to the second, essentially.
Well, they prioritize things that use the AMP method when it comes to their SEO stuff. And if you're someone like myself who recognizes this screen right here, which doesn't show up well on camera, but is the basically the Google home screen on your phone, they put a bunch of articles in there of things that might interest you, in addition to like tracking shipments you have coming in. But I would say that probably 75% of the articles that show up in here, based off my trends of things I like to read, then open one of the AMP, the accelerated mobile pages, because it's quicker to load, it's less bandwidth intensive, and it's a snappier experience. So Google has certainly prioritized that AMP method for mobile use. So to think that they might try and do something similar with imagery and things like that wouldn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm. I know that SP, you are the Snapchat user of the Gonna Geek Network, and when you've been sending your snaps, you've been like, you know what, I like this quick, like this interaction thing. I just wish that there would be something that would incorporate my news in my business. News, I said. News, NEWS, not something else.
Is this something that I can integrate with my Clamor app?
So for those not familiar, Clamor was a service that was created for podcasters that they could just take a little snippet and blast, sort of to entice people.
I'll say, I can't remember what website I was on. I was on a website. I think it was Office Depot. I recently purchased a new laptop for my daughter who's taking college classes in the fall and needed one. And when I was on the webpage ordering it, you know, you get these pop-ups. How can I help you? I noticed that you have something in your cart and you haven't purchased it yet. I hate those.
You can help me by leaving me alone.
I know. Get rid of that pop-up. There's a reason why I haven't clicked in there. And if you want to put something on a tab on the side or the bottom that says help, yeah, that'd be great. I will click that help to get help, but get it off the middle of my page. And I also hate these scrolling ads on mobile, right? That you come down a certain length in the article and there's the ad, and then it won't go away for a second. You're like, I just want to read this article really quick because I only have a second to read it and I can't. And then it says continue scrolling to get rid of it. And I continue to scroll. So those two things, get rid of them. I hate them. Don't bother
that
me.
Or the one where you scroll halfway through and then the ad finally queues up and it throws you back to the top of the screen on mobile. And you're like, what the hell, man? I'm trying to read. It's terrible. I'm hoping that the ad blocker coming to Google Chrome for Android helps to take care of a lot of those issues.
Oh, man. And by the way, before we get off of this news point, one of the interesting things about this is that regarding this mystery stamp project, Google has been in discussion with publishers, including Vox Media, Time Warner, CNN, Mike, and the Washington Post, as well as just Time Incorporated. So obviously talking to some big news players. So they're really trying to enhance that. And I think that, I don't know. I often use Google News itself, but I kind of hate it. I find that it's not the best thing, especially with their recent change where they made it so that you can't like endlessly search on some devices through like a category. It's like it'll give you 20 and it's like, that's it, you're cut off. You're cut off. And it's like, no, you just showed me 20 articles indexed in technology when they're actually talking about gas mileage. That's not what I wanted.
Because you don't care about the environment.
Well, you know, let's be honest here that the electric cars, the battery is the biggest problem. So, you know, you better fix that, Mr. SNASA.
Look at me. Look at Tesla.
No. You are SNASA. We know the things that you do in secret NASA.
We use nuclear fission. We don't use batteries. So get off our case about batteries.
Well, then where's my nuclear fission car?
It's on the moon.
I want it now in my house.
All right. It might get a little warm.
So that's the best part. Then I don't have to pay for heat.
And you don't have to worry about birth control going forward either. It'll take care of that for you too.
You know what? This is a great straight sales strategy that we've just come up here on the GonnaGeek.com show. So there you go.
Kids? Get the SNASA car. Comes with built-in radiation to kill off any chance of having any.
Wife pushing for kids, but you can't say no. Get the SNASA car.
Tired of shaving every day? Get the SNASA car. All your hair will fall out.
There we go. So let's go ahead and move on.
There's something that has Steven's attention. So much so that he's itching to talk to you about it. What is this something? You're about to find out. This is Steven's Geeky Stuff.
All right, today in Steven's Geeky Stuff, I'm going to talk a little bit about something that I have been playing with for a little while now. This is... No, that's not what I meant. You guys are dirty minded, says SP chuckling away.
I said nothing.
You guys
I
have
was
been
just afraid of what you were going to say.
You guys have been straddling the line all episode. I've been quiet, but now I just can't hold it in anymore.
All right, so I'm talking about something that is called Affinity Photo. Now, this is a piece of software that is available for purchase, and it's made by the company Affinity. They've got a few different products, and they started out in 2015 launching Affinity Photo, and it is essentially, for lack of a better term, a Photoshop knockoff. Now, they started out originally on just Mac, and they quickly got heads turning and people looking at this in high reviews. So give them a couple of years and they start expanding their platform. Last year, they came out with the Windows version. The current version of Affinity Photo is 1.5, which is actually not bad, being around only a couple of years for something that is a brand new piece of software. The regular price on Affinity Photo is $69 Canadian. I don't have the US price. It is, you translate it to US and it's somewhere in that realm.
$7.
Yeah, $7. And you end up getting free updates within the current major version. So what I mean by that, it's 1.5 right now. If tomorrow they came out with 1.6, I'd get that. If 3 months from now they came up with 2, I would not get that. Now, I did end up buying this when it was on sale because they actually came and they made a iPad version, and that was their next thing that they wanted to explore. So they launched an iPad version, and at the same time, they thought, let's just put a big sale on everything, and that's when I decided to purchase, because this is something that I had been eyeballing for a little bit, finding some reviews and some YouTube videos and things like that. And usually, I'm a Photoshop user. I've been using Photoshop for a long time. And really, when you think about it, $10 a month is not terrible if you are utilizing it a lot. But I utilize it a lot, but not really other than for my hobby. So $10 a month. I kind of justified it because there was some great image sorting software in there. I forget the name of that. What's that Adobe product? Adobe something. I don't know. Anyways, it's an image program. Someone will message in the chat, probably Suncast. And it came with that, and I was like, okay, this is kind of neat. But really, overall, $10 a month. That's $120 a year. That's a lot. There's other things I could spend that on, and that's $10 US a month. Lightroom. Thank you, Mike, in the chat. JPEG to RAW. Lightroom.
Mike would know.
So yes, yeah, the Adobe subscription, $10 a month, gives you Photoshop CC as well as Lightroom. So I was like, okay, let's take a look and let's explore. And so I decided to jump in and try this. Now, I got to admit, one of the top things that I find a struggle here using Affinity Photo is the fact that I am trying to learn something new. I have been using Photoshop since I was, well, you know, okay, I tried it at school. Let's go with that. I tried it at school. And so I've been using it for a very, very, very long time. And so that is something that I obviously am used to doing something one way. Now, with Affinity Photo, while there is a lot of similarity, I'm trying to use a piece of software and really unlearn everything that I know. So that can be a little bit a little bit of a struggle for me. For example, if I want to go add an effect to a layer, so like a shadow or a stroke or something like that, this is done differently than Photoshop. With Photoshop, for years, there's been like, you up to menu, layers, layer style, and you can access that way. Well, not with Affinity. There's a little button there on the layer you got to press, and actually sometimes you got to find it a different way. So that's a great example on how it can be a little hard for me to really relearn here. Now, even the color picker. So if you've ever even used Paint, you got the two boxes, and when one is your foreground and your background, or as some people call it, your primary and your secondary. And so the color picker even operates differently within Affinity Photo than Photoshop does. So sometimes it's tied to the layer, it's trying to be a little bit more dynamic, but I'm just used to it operating a different way. It's also, as I mentioned, 1.5. So there are some obvious problems and missing features. For example, when you are looking to anti-alias text. Now, what that means is, how back in the day, you would type in text and it would look really pixely. Well, technically, text is still that way. The text that you are using within your computer, the core of it, is still pixely, but there's software that smoothens out those edges. And so with Photoshop, it's easy. While you're going and you're typing text, there's a little drop down to set the amount of smoothness. That is not there in Affinity Photo, which is mind-blowing to me. You actually have to go in and play with this whole other setting. It's like it's almost like a layer effect, but it's not really. It's a certain control, and it's not the best. So if you want to go and you want to back that off, it's not the easiest to do. My personal conspiracy on that is that they're saving that for version 2, because then it'll entice the version 1 people to go up, because that is like a staple feature that a lot of people have been requesting for a while. So from a business perspective, my personal theory is if they're going to implement it, it's going to come at version 2. The other thing as well is when you go in, and if you've ever used Photoshop and you add layer, and you group a bunch of layers, you end up with a little folder. And if you're editing a file and you expand that folder and you save your file, you go out of Photoshop, you come back in, it's all there as you had it, expanded. With Affinity Photo, you go in and it's all minimized again. So you kind of got to dig through that tree a little bit more. Now, full disclosure, these are a couple examples just to kind of get your mind in the idea that is version 1.5. So you're going to have some quirks. And some of these, maybe there is a way to change it. I haven't dug enough into the settings. So it's a lot of negative, but there are some things that I actually like better about Affinity Photo. For example, the content aware, if you go in and you're deleting or changing something and you're using the content aware, I found that it actually seems a little bit better than Adobe's. The other thing as well is that tools like the eraser, the clone, there's by default a preview on there. So as I hover my eraser over something, it's showing me what it's going to do, which is nice, because there's been a couple of things where I've been wanting to see, okay, will this kind of work? How close can I get? and I don't have to erase and then Control Z, and it looks really crisp, really clear. The other thing as well that I'll mention is that this has in it the ability to import Photoshop files, which is nice because if you've got a Photoshop file, you can import it in and then, you know, keep working in Photoshop PSD style if you want, or export it in the Affinity Photo, like save it in the usual Affinity Photo extension. Mostly works. I've had a couple things where it's been pretty much bang on. One of the interesting things, though, is this show itself. I've been doing the menu in Affinity Photo for about 2-3 months now. And when I imported that Photoshop file, apparently somewhere along the way when I was developing that sidebar layer, I had something that had a glow on it, but I had the glow so small you never saw it. When I imported that into Affinity Photo, the glow was very apparent. It was like it didn't remember the amount of fading on it. So that was kind of weird. As well, if you look on the video side of things, there is a stroke, a white line around the logo at the top of the bar. That imported at a different size. So I think I had it at like 4 pixels or something like that, and it imported at 1. So there was a mismatch there for some reason. But overall, works pretty good. Now, I'm actually going to go ahead, and I was in the 1-year thing for the Adobe. That's going to end next month. I am going to cancel my subscription, because I think this is going to do everything or the majority of what I want to do as a hobbyist who just likes to tinker. Now, if you are a professional photographer or something like that, I think you're going to be best to stick with Adobe Photoshop, but this is real potential. I'm willing to give it a shot. Cancel my subscription. I could always bring that back if I want, or, you know, like, let's say I do decide, okay, Lightroom, I do really want to use that. Maybe I can go back then, but I think that Affinity Photo is going to work for me. So somebody who's a hobbyist and you're wanting to maybe get out of the Adobe structure, I would encourage you to check this out. This might do everything that you need if you're willing to deal with the fact that it is only version 1.5, so there is going to be some quirks. One of the interesting things, though, before I wrap up my review here, is I have been asked, do I think that this is the way to go for a novice, somebody who is looking to go into Photoshop or something like that? On one hand, it's cheaper, significantly cheaper. There's also some good features in there that are tailored more towards novices. On the flip side, you got decades of training and tutorials with Adobe Photoshop if you're trying to figure out how to do something. With this, there is a lot of tutorials because it's been around a while. There is quite a few on Affinity Photo, but trying to learn, you're going to be struggling there. You know, there's lots of courses out there that you can take for Photoshop. Affinity Photo, not so much. So I'm working from the perspective of I have been using Adobe Photoshop, so I'm kind of trying to translate to Affinity Photo. I'm not trying to learn how to do something in the software. So that's where it's a little bit different. But if you're willing to try, I like it. I think that it's worth the money, and I'm excited to see how my next year goes.
Yeah, I'm excited to give it a go and try it out. Of course, I'm not a Adobe expert by any means, so I might not actually have all the bad habits from Adobe as I'm going to Affinity, or know what I'm missing.
Yeah, because you've been thinking a little bit about this yourself since I first started to dabble in it, right?
Yeah, I have been, and I haven't pulled the trigger on it, but it seems like something that I would be willing to do. I do need to get into some sort of graphic design program in order to do artwork for my other shows. That is just needed. Some refreshing things on the template for the video side, or some little changes with the logos from time to time. So yeah, it would be nice to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the chat there, and there's a couple of comments about this. Number one, people pointing out that $120 a year is a pretty good deal for Photoshop and Lightroom, which it really is.
It is, if you're going to use it to its full potential. If you're like me, who dabbles in Photoshop or a photo editing software, like maybe once a month, twice a month, $120 is not quite what I'm wanting to pay right now for that.
Yeah,
year.
And that's a great point there, because I think I'm not anywhere near what a photographer or even just somebody who does graphics design does with it, but I do more than you do, I think, in it. And
oh yes, that's fair.
And I'm not comfortable paying that type of price tag for Photoshop. Now, here's the thing. When you think back to the old Photoshop model, it's still a steal, but I have troubles with that. And a lot of people in the chat are talking about the old different photo editing or manipulation or graphics design software that they have purchased at one point and still use. So that's one of the things that mindset is actually why I wanted to try this, because I wouldn't mind getting into that situation where I am using a piece of software that I purchased a couple years prior. Now, I'm happy to give Affinity Photo my money, because if they keep going and going and going, which is of course a risk, that's good for me because they're just going to develop it more and more. And that's why I'm happy to support somebody like that. And I would love to see more comparable software to Photoshop. A lot of these free options out there, you start to dive into them and they're not as great as they seem on the surface. I got to say, Affinity Photo overall has been what I expected. Now, again, I did research and I looked at these before. So I looked at a lot of comparisons. So I had an idea what I would be missing out on.
And I tend to agree with something Mike said in the chat room. He said it's good to try out new programs, if for nothing else, so you know your options. That's exactly what it is. At the very least, Steven, you've done a $69 experiment to try this out for the next year. And if you don't like it, you go back to Photoshop, or you go back to the Adobe Creative Cloud stuff, or you try some other solution that's out there. It's really good to try those tools, so then you can speak intelligently on it. Like, well, here's the reason I don't like this product. Here's the reason I like this product. Here's why I'm currently where I am, versus being like, I'm just here because it's cheap, like I am.
Yeah.
That's how I got my photo editing software. I was like, this one's cheap and will do what I need it to do right now.
And I paid less than $69. It was like 20 or 30% off. Like it was a pretty good deal at the time. So
he paid $450 American.
Any other questions before we wrap up the show? No, nothing on that.
Does this work on Mac OS as well, or is it just a Windows
Yes,
product?
it is. So Windows was what came out last year. It originally was only on Mac.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And one of the things that's neat with the Affinity licensing is that you are allowed to use it on multiple devices. So like I could have it installed legally on my computer and my home computer, as well as my laptop. I think the only thing to note with that is you're stuck with the platform you buy. So if I had a Mac,
Okay.
I think I would have to buy a Mac license for that. I believe that's how that works.
So Steven, of course, got the Mac license because he is the biggest Apple fanboy on the show.
Of course, no,
Yes.
I just bought it because I couldn't read. No, I'm just joking.
Don't make fun of me.
Well, but that is going to go ahead and take us to the end of the show. If you want to know more about Affinity Photo or any of the things that we talked about, please do get in touch with us through any of the methods. You can send us a tweet at Gonna Geek. You can find us at facebook.com/Gonna Geek, or just head on over to gonnageek.com and comment on a post there. And while you're at gonnageek.com, I'll just go ahead and plug all of the awesome content that is there. There's a lot of really good stuff happening, articles, as well as podcasts. We got some brand new podcasts, including
Super Geeky Playdate, which has been around for a while, but they recently had an episode, they call it mini episode number 4 with Kevin Eastman. Now, why is Kevin Eastman so important? Here's why. Kevin Eastman joined Super Geeky Playdate to talk about his life, his upcoming comic Drawing Blood, and his experience, wait for it, creating the Ninja Turtles. He created the Ninja Turtles, and Super Geeky Playdate has an interview with him. So go check that out. Mini episode number 4 at gonnageek.com.
awesome. Before we wrap up, is there anything that you guys would want to plug? Let's start off with Chris Ferrell.
Oh man, I don't really have anything to plug this week. So I'll just reiterate what Steven said. Go check out some of the stuff on the network, gonnageek.com. There's 22 different shows in the network. So I guarantee you, we've probably got something to meet your geeky tastes.
Awesome. SP?
Yes, Saturday, August 19th, I will be at Gen Con, my first experience at Gen Con. And not only will I be at Gen Con, I'll be on a panel at Gen Con with 3 other gonnageek.com members talking about podcasting. Yeah, so I'm going to be doing 2 panels, one at 10, one at 11. They're in the Crown Plaza. I'll be there with the verified producer Cody of WGN Radio fame, also Game Life Balance US fame on the GonnaGeek.com network, and his new professional podcast found at Curiosity.com. Yes, we have a professional podcaster on the network now. Woohoo! Way to go, Cody. And his better half, Jonathan Martin from Game Life Balance US, and the better half of all of us, Michelle Ely from the Starling Tribune. So the four of us will be at Gen Con doing some podcasting panels. If you're interested in attending, it's at 10 and 11 in the Crown Plaza.
So 3 halves?
That's right. I did that math specifically for you Canadians so you could understand it.
Okay, I gotcha.
Is that a loony or a toonie?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. But before we go, I always want to go ahead and give a special shout out to Stargate Pioneer. Stargate Pioneer has been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes as far as talking to different people, and not only for GonnaGeek.com, but also he has been doing stuff on Reddit. And this past week, I saw a little bit of a post where somebody had thanked him for all of the great stuff that he's been posting with it about podcast industry news on Reddit, and just they're obviously a loyal SP follower. So I wanted to give a special shout out today because if you are a podcaster, and I know we got a lot of podcasters that listen to this show, I wanted to make sure to plug on here to follow Stargate Pioneer on Twitter or Reddit or wherever, because he is going to make sure that you have a lot of the latest happenings in the world of podcasting.
It's important to know the latest happenings in the world of podcasting, especially if you're a podcaster, like the podcaster patent troll. If you want to know what's happening with that, go to my Twitter feed. You will find actually Better Podcasting Twitter feed is where it's at, but I will make sure I retweet it on mine as well. And you'll find out what's the latest going on with the possibility of somebody getting money just because you're podcasting.
Ooh, tease. But that is the end of episode 203 of the official GonnaGeek.com show. I'm Stephen Jondrew. I am causing problems on GonnaGeek.com and GFQnetwork.com.
I'm Chris Ferrell. Thanks for watching our award-winning podcast.
And I'm SP. Don't forget to go check out your SNASA car at your local SNASA dealer.
My hair's falling out. Bye!
Thanks for checking out another episode of the GonnaGeek.com show. If you enjoyed it, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes or a thumbs up on YouTube. We encourage you to send your feedback by email to show@GonnaGeek.com. You can find our entire archive at GonnaGeek.com/show. And while you're there, why not check out all of the other geeky content on the Gonna Geek Network? Want to chime into our live chat? Join us Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at www.geeks.live. The music heard on this show is by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. This show was produced and edited by Stephen Jondrew of Gonna Geek Productions. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.